A key part in telling a good story, whether it's a film, a book, or any other type of media, is world building. This large cog in the machine that is a good plot often gets overlooked. Think about the most immersive and just all-round greatest plots in film. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, The Last Airbender, and I know what some of you are thinking. But I can think of loads of great movies that don't take place in some fantastical world. I'm not finished, okay? World building doesn't just mean it's gotta be freaking Muggle Earth, okay? World building is everywhere in stories. So let's take a look at the good and the bad and how to pull off world building in your film. Hell yeah. First off, we need to know what world building is, and well, it's kind of obvious. It's how the writer builds the world our characters live in, and the world that our story takes place in. And as I mentioned, it's not only found in movies that take place in a fantasy world, or a world unlike ours, but it's also found in the most simple of films. Let's take a look at Ferris Bueller's Day Off, a film that is up there in my list of favourites, mainly because of its simplicity and rewatchability. But what's the world building? Well, I'll show you. If you didn't know, Ferris Bueller's Day Off is about a guy, Ferris, who takes a sick day from school and takes a trip to Chicago. What am I saying? Of course you've seen it. Anyway, this movie uses world building in just the small details in the dialogues and jokes. Dialogues? Did I just say dialogues? Whatever. Okay, so we know that Ferris is a lovable rogue, but when we see things like the get well sign on the water tower, the police wishing him well, and Charlie Sheen's character knowing him, and a few more examples, this builds on the world that Ferris is a good guy, and everyone except Principal Rudy is Rudy. It's Rooney! These scenes both build the world that our story takes place in, and also builds Ferris's character, and also, like I said, makes our villain even more of a villain. But with that said, let's take a look at the more commonly thought of idea when it comes to world building. Okay, so fantasy worlds in film can be so fun, whether it's hobbits and rings or Han Solo and McClunky. I'm sorry. Where was I again? These movies transport us as the audience into new worlds, but there are so many examples of the world building in these films done horribly wrong. And yes, although the world building usually fails throughout the whole film, the main place where these films go wrong is at the very start. Think about it. You're sat there, about to watch a new film, and this crazy sci-fi, fantasy, whatever McClunky thing. And then it starts, and you hear a voice saying some crap about how there was a war and there was aliens, or there was a line that says like, it wasn't always like this, and you know what I mean. And it's so cliche. It's not even a good cliche, because it completely ruins the fabric of the movie, as soon as the audience is told everything they need to know about the world, there's nothing left for them to learn other than what the characters are doing. These exposition dumps need to be stopped. Okay, I'll tone it down a bit, but seriously, these suck so much. Now, exposition dumps can be really easily mixed up with lore/story building. Let's take a look at Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, because if we look at the start of that film, we see what seems to be one of these exposition dumps, but it's not. This opening gives us backstory on the ring, and the only bits of world building information for the audience to learn is that there are some races and there was a war. That's it. It doesn't tell us every little place on the map, it doesn't give us all the backstory of all the world up until our story starts. Imagine if this movie started out Frodo explaining all of Middle Earth and every little detail and blah blah blah, and how it wasn't always like this. That both would be boring for the audience, as like I said, it leaves nothing to learn, and it would also make it seem like Frodo was a really important character. Well, he is. I mean, it would make him seem like he has a lot more power than he does, but we all know that the whole point is that he is the most unlikely hero. I don't know why I'm complaining about something that didn't happen, but it's not uncommon to see in a lot of sci-fi fantasy films. The only use of these expedition dumps I could find were in TV shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender. At the start of every episode in the show, there's a 30-second intro where one of the main characters has a voiceover saying, hey, so there's like 4 nations and they do this cool magic stuff, but the fire one is bad and there's a little bald kid with an arrow on his head and he can do all the bendy magic stuff. Okay, on with the show. It's so simple but so needed, because if I was a kid just browsing TV channels and I came across this gem on Nickelodeon and I'd never seen it before, then after watching this I would be set to watch the episode and pretty pretty much the whole rest of the show. I wouldn't have to go back and start from the beginning. Although, if you haven't watched the show, go watch it. It's on Netflix. Other shows tried to deal with this problem by making the show and the characters simple, like Big Bang Theory, with the creator saying that he wanted the show to be picked up at any point and on any episode. And yeah, it's hard to compare Big Bang Theory to The Last Airbender, but if it's a show that has deeper plot, then these recaps or mini exposition clips are fine. But that's no excuse for movies. You start from the beginning and you watch till the end. If the movie's bearable, I guess. This next world building technique I like to call blind world building. I mean, it probably has a name, I just like making up names anyway. This technique is basically the opposite of the exposition dumps, and it's basically, I can't stop saying basically. Anyway, it's basically world building done right. These movies that use this just throw the audience into this world and only tell them what is told to the characters in the film. One of the best uses of this I've seen is the Studio Ghibli film Spirited Away. Ghibli, shut up, it's pronounced Ghibli. Okay, anyway. This movie explains the world in only what we see and keeps the audience in a state of constant awe throughout the whole film. There are questions that are answered very progressively, but also there are some questions that just are left unanswered as they're nothing to do with the main plot. And if you don't know, for whatever reason, the film follows Chichiro, or whatever you say, a young girl whose family wander into a magical world while trying to find a new home. But after her parents turn into pigs, she needs to work at the spirit bathhouse to save them. And if you haven't seen it, I'm going to be throwing some minor spoilers in, so sorry about that. Spirited Away purposely makes the world building strange and confusing, as Chichiro's adventure throughout the film reflects the confusing and strange experience of moving to a new house in a new place. And as I said, aspects of the film don't need to be explained until they're apparent in the story. Take the train for example. Throughout the first 2 acts of the film, we know that there's a train and that the spirits arrive on it. However, we don't know where else it goes, why, when was it created, why was it created, or even what else is out there in this world. And this just leads to more questions as we see just a glimpse into other parts of the world that they ride past. But the beauty in the world building of Spirited Away is that we don't need to know, and we're just left up to our imagination. A similar example to blind world building is the Harry Potter series. Imagine if you had never seen the films or read the books and you had no idea what it was about. Then it starts and all you know is that you got a wizard man, a cat lady and your boy Hagrid. The audience is left to wonder, why is this kid special? Why will Hagrid see him again in a few years? Why are they leaving him at his aunt's house? What the frick is a muggle? Well, a key part in world building is, like I said, giving the audience pieces of the puzzle bit by bit. The movie should just slowly drip feed information to the reader and keep them engaged. If the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone for you weirdos, started out with another cheesy voiceover where Harry was like, "You may be wondering how I got here. Well, there's this evil guy called Voldemort or whatever, and he killed my parents, and now I got to go to wizard school and produce 8 more movies over the course of the next 10 years. And again, I know this didn't happen, obviously, but anyone there making movies and writing scripts, just don't do this. Just stay away from this, okay? One tip that I can give is to know your world. If you as the writer know the world that the story takes place in before even beginning to write, then you already have an upper hand on the writing process. Look at the movie Hot Fuzz. When Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg wrote this film, they wrote pages and pages on everything that was happening in the village. Even if you don't mention everything in the film, just knowing your setting will make it so much easier. I'm not sure what else to say on this topic, and this video took way longer to write than I thought. So on that note, I just want to say how much it means to me that you watched this whole video, and how much it would make my day, no, my whole year, if you would subscribe and leave a like on the video. And if you want to see more of these, released every Friday by the way, then give the ring-a-dinga bell a dinga-ringa. Oh, and also if you like the bit about Harry Potter, then stick around because next week I'm going to do a new show. That's right, you heard me. A new show. This is like the 6th show on this freaking channel. It basically, I'm going to get all, well, the show's called Binge That Thing. I'm going to binge a thing and then review and rank them for your enjoyment. Also, subscribe if you want. You don't have to.
Good night, girl. I'll see you tomorrow.